In complete darkness, the ignition of a single match represents the spark of awareness. The brief illumination symbolizes a transient moment of sensory input within an infinite void. The fading flame prompts reflection on existence beyond the realm of sensory experience. The vast, open landscape exists independently of human observation. Reality in its untouched state is wordless and free from interpretation. This represents the pure existence of the environment. Reality is defined as that which remains after removing all sensory input and interpretations. Reality exists independently of creation, thought, or feeling. Reality exists prior to language and proof. The eye's lens plays a crucial role in vision by bending and focusing incoming light onto the retina. This process allows the brain to interpret visual information, constructing our perception of reality. Colored filters placed over the lens simulate how perception can alter the experience of reality. Differences in how we see things show that perception is personal. This subjectivity highlights that what we see is not a perfect truth, but an interpretation unique to each observer. Perception is like a mirror. In a small room it reflects, but only what's around it. Just as a mirror can only capture fragments of a scene, our perception is constrained by biological, cognitive, and environmental limits. The reflection is not an accurate representation of reality, but is altered by individual beliefs. Biases further shape the perceived image, leading to a subjective interpretation of the external world. Moods function as psychological filters, subtly tinting our interpretation of reality. Like a lens that warps light, emotions such as joy, sadness, or anxiety shape what we notice, remember, and function as psychological filters, subtly tinting our interpretation of reality. Like a lens that warps light, emotions such as joy, sadness, or anxiety shape what we notice, remember, and emphasize in our surroundings. A cheerful mind may overlook flaws, while a distressed one might magnify them, proving that perception is not a fixed image, but an ever-shifting projection molded by inner states. This interplay between emotion and cognition reveals that reality, as we experience it, is deeply personal and malleable. Memories twist our experiences, changing how we see reality. They don't merely store the past, they warp, highlight, or dim details over time, blending fact with feeling. A joyful memory might soften. Fears and hopes act as powerful psychological lenses, bending perception to their will. Fear sharpens shadows, turning ambiguity into threat, while hope softens edges, painting obstacles as. Fears and hopes act as powerful psychological lenses, bending perception to their will. Fear sharpens shadows, turning ambiguity into threat, while hope softens edges, painting obstacles as surmountable. Together, they form a dual filter, one that can either distort or clarify, depending on which dominates the mind. Experience is not an objective truth, but a subjective interpretation. The individual mind shapes reality, imprinting its unique form onto sensory inputs. Subjectivity transforms external stimuli into personalized experiences. Narrative construction is visualized as interwoven strings forming a timeline. The weaving and unraveling of strings represents the creation and deconstruction of a story. This shows how storytelling is always changing and flowing. Like water taking the shape of its container, narrative composition bends to the weight of memory, the pull of emotion, and the friction of. Our deepest anxieties and aspirations don't just shape reactions, they rewrite the sensory world itself. This process mirrors the ever-shifting essence of narrative creation, where stories are not fixed, but alive, adapting with each new perspective. Like water taking the shape of its container, narrative composition bends to the weight of memory, the pull of emotion, and the friction of conflicting truths. It underscores that meaning is never static. It's woven and rewoven in the act of telling, proving that every story is a collaboration between teller, listener, and the currents of time. Narratives fulfill the human mind's inherent need for structure and meaning. The human mind craves structure and meaning, which narrative provides. This is the same tool used by politicians, media, and corporations to control and manipulate. The human mind, desperate for structure and coherence, clings to narratives that simplify chaos into cause and effect. Those in power exploit this hunger, feeding us curated stories that bend perception, redirect outrage, or manufacture desire. Whether through a headline, a campaign slogan, or an ad campaign, they weaponize narrative's fluidity, proving that whoever controls the story controls what the world accepts as true. Our minds crave order and meaning. Narratives selectively highlight certain aspects of reality. Narratives inherently obscure other aspects of reality. Even compelling narratives function as a veil. Narrative involves the selection of specific experiences from a broader range of possibilities. Narrative arranges selected experiences into a structured sequence, influencing their interpretation. Narrative editing can create a fragmented or distorted representation of reality. Narrative functions as a metaphorical comfort blanket, offering solace and security. This narrative blanket is stitched together from fragments of memory, creating a cohesive whole. The narrative structure provides a sense of understanding and order, mitigating uncertainty. Stories shape cultures, beliefs, and identities across time. Ancient symbols and modern media both serve as vehicles for cultural narratives. Narratives, whether traditional or contemporary, play a crucial role in community formation and identity construction. Stories can provide comfort and meaning, serving as a source of healing. However, stories can also act as traps, restricting our perception of reality. Stories simultaneously offer solace and limit our understanding of the world. Stories can create a false sense of reality, blurring the line between truth and illusion. The persuasive power of narratives can make falsehoods feel true, influencing perception. Illusions crafted by stories can obscure the underlying reality, leading to misinterpretations. A story can be visualized as a distinct form, emerging from a background of silence. The story's defined shape contrasts with the boundless nature of the self. The story is a structured narrative, separate from the vast and undefined self. Mistaking the story for the self obscures the awareness of one's true nature. The narrative identity acts as a veil, concealing the boundless essence of being. Forgetting the vastness results from identifying solely with the limited confines of personal history. A mirror with no reflection shows reality breaking its usual rules. The pulsing light within the mirror represents the wordless real, an unmediated state of existence. This visual abstraction highlights the concept of reality existing beyond linguistic or symbolic frameworks. Reality extends beyond individual perception. Narratives are interpretations layered upon underlying reality. A deeper, more fundamental existence underlies all stories. The wordless real exists independently of human language and conceptualization. This underlying reality possesses inherent knowledge, even without being explicitly named or defined. Human perception and understanding are limited in their ability to fully grasp this fundamental reality. The wordless real exists independently of descriptive language. Experience precedes and transcends linguistic articulation. The essence of reality remains beyond the grasp of verbal description. This encourages a release from reliance on verbal constructs. While language constructs the scaffolding of thought, true comprehension often exists in the spaces between words, a flash of insight, an unspoken intuition, or a visceral understanding that defies. Visual abstraction promotes intuitive comprehension beyond linguistic expression. Pre-linguistic cognition exists prior to the development of language and symbolic representation. Human perception is filtered and shaped by language, creating a narrative overlay on direct experience. Recalling pre-linguistic awareness involves accessing unfiltered sensory information and intuitive understanding. Silence represents a state devoid of auditory stimuli, allowing focus on internal experience. Stillness is the absence of physical movement, promoting observation of the present moment. Experiencing the wordless real involves direct sensory perception without cognitive interpretation. Pure light symbolizes the ultimate reality. This reality exists beyond all constructs, The light embodies a fundamental, underlying truth.